Okay, like I said, we'll do a little bit of Meditation 101, and then we'll do a nice, probably like a 30-minute guided meditation, maybe a little bit longer. We'll see what happens. And then we'll see if there's any questions afterwards, once we get done with the meditation. As far as meditation goes, it can be done, it's almost like a self-therapy. You know, it shouldn't be considered a self-therapy because there's more to it than that. But a lot of people come to meditation for the reasons that they come to find therapy. Because there's things that they want to work on that they feel if they work on them, or if they eliminate some things, that they're going to feel better about themselves and they're going to feel better about life. What I call living a complete life. And a complete life is living a life where nothing more is needed from out there to make us more fulfilled, to make us more happier now, in the moment, you know. And meditation provides that in many different ways, but primarily, we know that it calms the mind and relaxes the body, and just those aspects alone make meditation a very wonderful practice. And the primary idea that it is very healing and a very worthwhile practice is because it eliminates a huge amount of stress, and partially because of the things I just mentioned. You know, it calms the mind, it brings us into the present moment, and it relaxes the body, and that by itself is very stress relieving, and, you know, as us meditators know. And also, the whole idea behind meditation is to be able to let go. There's always something spiritually, or even you know, from a non-spiritual basis, like a personal level, things that we should let go of. And it's really our own individual job to identify those things that we want to let go of, or should let go of. And usually what I'm talking about when I say that are things that are looked at as attachments for us, things that could be considered attachments. So what are your attachments? You know, I'm not asking you directly, I'm not looking for an answer, but we should ask ourselves that. That's really a part of the inquiry that we should have on a very, very basic level, is asking ourselves, what are we attached to? What are the sticky things in life that we would feel worse, that we'd feel empty somehow inside if we didn't have those in our life? What kind of attachments would, if they were no longer a part of our life, would we be really upset about? You know, that would cause us difficulties. And we all have them. I'll give you a clue on some of the big ones, because we talked about this last week, I believe. One of them is the body, you know, our own body. Like, if we didn't have this body at the end of this lifetime, which is one of the most fearful times for us, and it's the most, it's just the scariest aspect of who we are at the end of this life. When we die, what happens after it? And so to lose this body is a huge attachment for us, and we don't want to hide and run away from these things. We want to go right into it, and look these attachments right in the eye and really understand them, because the awareness is king. Awareness is what will allow us to understand these attachments and actually be able to accept the idea that we are attached to them, and then be able to let go of them. And every aspect of the mind is very much an attachment to our beliefs, what we just the thoughts that we have. We believe that our thoughts are very, very important, and if we didn't have that ability to think, we would certainly lose that, and it would be very sad for us not to be able to have that ability. But what I'm really speaking of is the attachments to these things, the attachments to our ability to think of certain aspects and certain thoughts, certain things that come to mind. And in other words, we actually look at these thoughts and feel that these thoughts are a big part of us, and usually more so than we might normally, or that we should anyway. Hey, Joe. People are still coming in here, so.
Hi, kids.
So meditation allows us to really see these things and let go of our attachments. And these are just a few of them. We all have our things. There's things that we have strong desires for. These desires can be looked at as attachments. They could actually be addictions for us. And these things could be, things that we drink, things that we eat, things that we indulge in. Behaviors, lots of us have behaviors that we would probably like to let go of. And so these are all things that we can consider attachments, and things that we can actually see with a kind of an eye of wisdom in meditation, and be able to recognize them and let them go. Now, one thing we want to do is be very, very gentle with ourselves. If we find something that we feel like we want to let go of, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good idea to let go of it right away. It might be something that we have to work at. So we want to be very gentle, like I said. And that means to really have some loving kindness, towards ourselves when it comes to looking at things that we feel should change. Just take our time with it. And the best way to do that is to have a consistent daily practice in meditation. A meditation allows us to go within and see what's there. The thing about meditation is that, as I mentioned already, it should be done consistently. If it's not done consistently, we can kind of, it's just like any other practice. It's very easy for it to fall away. It's like, learning a musical instrument or learning a language. If we don't keep up on it, it's the type of thing that, we get kind of rusty and we don't feel comfortable doing it, and we possibly don't do it. And so if you're new to meditation, it's just really the same principle, to do it every day. But maybe a newer person might start out with just a few moments a day or a few minutes a day. And somebody that's been meditating for a while will practice a half hour or maybe an hour a day. But the issue of time is not as important as consistency. That's always true. So to do it every day is more important than to try to do it and force yourself to do it for an hour each day. Just to do it each day. And that means to have a place in your home. You don't have to go to temple or to find a spiritual place outside of your home, to practice. You should have that place that you go to. When I say, where do you meditate in your home, you should be able to close your eyes and actually see it and know exactly where it's at. And if you can't do that, you should establish someplace. It could be anywhere. It might even be outside in your yard or something. And it could even be in your car. The car is actually an excellent place to meditate. But if you're, like most people, you'll set aside and put a cushion or some comfortable things, or maybe even a comfortable chair in a certain place in your home, and kind of look at that as your spiritual domain in a way, And don't be afraid to use a timer, but don't get attached to the timer. And what I mean by that is, You can use a timer to a certain extent, but if you feel like you want to meditate longer or maybe even a shorter duration, by all means, do it and allow yourself to adjust the timer or the idea of the timer from time to time. And otherwise, you can set a timer for, try 20 minutes if you're newer at it, or if you've been meditating for a while, a half hour, 45 minutes, and just kind of set it. A timer is nice because you don't have to be watching the clock. You don't have to be looking at things and wondering whether it's the time to stop or time to get ready for work or whatever you're up to. Just set the timer and kind of go into the practice. The whole idea behind meditation is to find that presence, that stillness in between thoughts, that stillness in between the past and the future. The present moment, or what I sometimes call the still presence, Eckhart Tolle calls it the now. This is really the hallmark of meditation, and it's what we are all really setting up as, if we wanted to lay out a role, not a goal, but a role for us as a meditator, it would be able to sit in that presence, that kind of bask in that present moment for as long as you can. And the more accustomed we are to meditation, the more we meditate, the longer and the more we can do that. We can expand those moments of presence. And in those moments, we become concentrated, sometimes not jhana or deep concentration, and that doesn't necessarily matter. But we can also find insight, or insight can find us, I should say. And that is actually the name of the practice that we typically do here. Vipassana, or insight meditation, is a Theravada Buddhist tradition that allows a spaciousness of mind to be, and allows these aha moments or these moments of insight to come up. And our job is we're not meditating to try to find insight or try to achieve insight or anything like that. We're just allowing it to be. A typical insight might be the idea of impermanence, that everything is impermanent, it's constantly changing, including our mind and our body. So we should not have to become attached to it. There is nothing to become attached to because it's constantly changing. And without trying to find something that we feel will bring us permanent happiness, there's nothing in impermanent world that can provide that because of this impermanence. So there's literally nothing that we have to become attached to, that we should become attached to. And what that means is ultimate freedom. Ultimate freedom not to be attached in any way. That's easier said than done, especially in this modern world, because these things that we have, these things that we do, these things that we cherish, are very sticky. They're they've been a part of our life for a long time, and it's very hard to let them go. But ultimately, we just want to remind ourselves that we will have to let go of everything eventually. Everything. And don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean I'm asking or suggesting that people get rid of their belongings and live a life of homelessness or anything like that. It's, what I'm saying is to be aware of these attachments that we have and just work with them. And if we meditate each day and do a little bit of inquiry by looking at our attachments, things that we should be letting go of or considering letting go of, our world will become more conditioned in a spiritual way, and it'll be a happier life for us. I can guarantee that. So the meditation that we'll do here in a few moments is a guided meditation, and if you're new, again, if you're new to meditation, guided meditation is sometimes a very good idea. Otherwise, it's very difficult to just sit in silence for a half hour or 20 minutes or whatever it might be. Although the deeper practice, the deeper aspect of meditation is that silence. It is sitting in silence. And this is the practice of going within and discovering what is there, what is inside of us when we are, doing this practice. And the best way we can do that is by sitting in silence and going within, doing the work, doing the job. Again, if meditation is fairly new, guiding or listening to somebody guide us through a meditation can be very, very useful. And in this Wednesday night meditation, this is one of the things that I do. I will guide us through for about probably 15 or 20 minutes, and then there will be a period of silence afterwards. And you might notice that silence is a little bit more difficult than the guided part, because the guiding is leading you. It's giving you something to do, which is listening to what I have to say. So we're going to do just a kind of a basic meditation here. I wanted to, for some reason, what comes to mind, something that we can kind of work on, besides attachment, is looking at the aspect of worry, these worries that we sometimes have, and where they come from. Those of you that have worked with me before know that I often refer to things, to emotions in the aspect of time, such as the past and the future. And worry is something that is very interesting. Worry is a cycle of things that come around again and again and again. That's why it's so hard for us to stop the worry. It's like a feedback. Something comes to mind, and we remember something maybe from the past that we don't want to happen in the future, and we keep coming around in a cycle of worry. And it's very hard for us as humans to stop this. And the danger of ourselves, I think that is the best way to stop the worry. And in some situations, if it's harmless distraction, it might be one of the tools that we can use to stop worry. But if it is a destructive kind of distraction, again, like we fall back on one of our attachments, like eating or drinking or indulgence of drugs or something like that. Of course, that is not the best way to distract ourselves from worry, and it won't help at all. It'll make things worse. And we know that, but we have to remind ourselves about that. So I might inject a little bit about this process of worrying in our meditation that we do. So again, please make yourself comfortable. Gently close the eyes. I suggest you take a couple of a little bit deeper than normal breaths, bring them into the body, really get a feel for the breath. From a meditator's standpoint, the breath is an extremely useful tool. It's something that we can rely on as being there all the time. We can rely on the breath more than we can rely on our own mind. And when we want to focus on something, we prove this to ourselves again and again because our focus doesn't last very long. When I ask somebody to focus on their breath, the mind might go directly to the breath, or it might kind of fight the idea of focusing on the breath, might not know where to focus, might not know why, might question, why am I focusing on the breath? Whether it's any benefit or not. But the breath is the most common meditation object in the world. Because of its reliability. It's always there. It's always moving. So it's easier to bring our attention to. It's very impermanent. It's changing all the time. Every breath is different, like a snowflake. It could be the most exciting thing in the world, and it could also be the most boring thing in the world. So it's very versatile. So focusing on the breath for some people means that focusing on the tip of the nose. It might mean counting the breaths and visualizing the breath rather than feeling it. We might be focusing on the movement of the abdomen or the movement of the breath in and out of the body. And none of this is right or wrong. So we're just focusing on the breath. That's the only instructions. And so each person here that's meditating this evening probably is doing it different than the other person. But that doesn't make one person a better meditator than another. Not at all. We're using the breath as a tool for us to focus on, for us to be concentrated, so that we can rest in the present moment awareness. And in that present moment awareness, there's a lack of past and future. And that's why it's so peaceful. In the past is where we find a lot of memories, like all of our memories. And some of these memories are very, very beneficial, very wonderful. But many of them are memories of things that happen from a negative standpoint. And a lot of these things we don't even recognize as being negative, but they're there. We don't even remember them. It's as if they're in the basement of the mind. The subconscious aspect of these memories is like the big piece of the iceberg underneath the water, much larger than what we are actually seeing. And this controls our emotions and it controls our personality, who we are. So if we think that we know ourselves, we don't. And that's a good thing to keep in mind. Most of us don't even have a clue of who we are, even at the deepest level. Because all of these memories and all these things of the past, and we come back into the present moment, focus on the breath, and we can say that we know exactly who we are and what is going on. We're resting in this nowness, this present moment, this presence. There's no fear of the past. There's no anger. There's no animosity or no negativity as long as we can stay in the present moment. And while we're in the present moment, there's no future. And of course, the future is something that we can look forward to. It's a piece of the mind, and it's all mind. It's something that we create, our future. We have no idea how it's going to turn out. We can only assume. We can create or feel like we're creating. We can imagine and visualize and seemingly work at it. And we can feel very comfortable with our future, but we can also feel very fearful of what might be. The aspect of the future can be very frightening. Particularly when we have these worries that something might happen in the future that we're aware of from the past. Sometimes we're even worried about things that we're not even sure that we're worried about, because we haven't disclosed all the things in the past, the unconscious or the subconscious content. But again, as long as we're present, as long as we're focusing on that breath, you can check it out for yourself, that everything is fine. We're very content, very together, very peaceful, very happy, as long as we can remain present. And as we find ourselves worrying, again, picking up things from the past, memories, situations. And these are things that we can't set down. It's a habitual pattern of the mind, coming around again and again. It often involves the past and the future. We're afraid that something might happen that we're familiar with that has happened in the past. This perpetual idea of this thing happening to ourselves or others is the idea of, or the aspect of worry. We're worried that something may happen because we've experienced it before. And the question is, how do we remedy this? And in meditation, we can remedy it by being present, of course. But when that worry comes up, as they often do in meditation, when the worry comes up out of this present and throws us back into this aspect of worry, we just ask ourselves, how true is this? I've heard it compared to as pointing down. In other words, going into the basement of the truth. Going down into the truth itself. How truthful is this worry? Are we sure that something is going to come out of it? Are we sure that it's going to happen the way we might imagine it to happen? And what good is this worrying doing for us? Is it beneficial in any way at all? If we feel that our worry has helped in some way, that's fine, but why continue? Is that going to help us be more prepared for something? And if it has not helped us or helped others in any way, why continue worrying? Simple questions we can ask ourselves when this aspect of worry comes up. Otherwise, the best thing we can do is stay with the breath in whatever method we're using with the breath. Notice when we're in this state of presence, or this presence of mind. And try to expand upon it. And be easy on yourself. Don't push yourself too hard. Just enjoy the meditation as much as you can. This is time well spent and time that you set aside for this practice. So try to enjoy it and try to relax into it and try to be good at it. In other words, try to be good at resting in that presence. You deserve it. And we'll sit in silence for a number of minutes here. And if you're new to meditation and it's difficult to sit in silence, just simply count the breaths. See if that helps. Visualize the breaths coming in and coming out and give it a number. number 1. Breathing in and breathing out for 2, and so on. You can actually visualize the number that can help. And just stay with that. I know people that have been counting the breaths for years, and it's a very good practice. Bring your attention to the breath if it's not there already. Take a few nice deep inhalations. Just ask yourself how your meditation was. How was your concentration? Were you present? Bring your hands in front of you, if you like, in front of your heart. May each one of us and all beings be well, happy, and peaceful. May no harm come to us. May no difficulties come to us. And may we all meet with spiritual and worldly success. May we have the patience, the courage, the understanding to meet and overcome any problems or any difficulties that we might face.